If your perfect client Googles divorce lawyer near me and doesn't find your firm, does your website even exist? Let's fix that. Welcome back to the Revenue Roadmap, where we help family law firm owners build successful firms, market themselves in the right way, and help them have amazing careers. My name is Tyler Dolph. I am the CEO of Rocket Clicks. We're a hyper-focused digital marketing agency that works exclusively with family law firms. We also own and operate our own family law firm called Sterling Lawyers that has grown to over 32 attorneys across 2 different states, Wisconsin and Illinois. Today, we're going to continue our series on SEO for family law firms, the kind of the back end of websites, the why your firm can show up in the maps and in the organic listings. We have Tony and Nick back with us today. Tony is the co-founder of our law firm, Sterling Law, as well as the president of our agency. And Nick is our head of SEO for our family law firms. He has been with us for a very long time. He knows all of the ins and outs when it comes to growing law firms organically, and really appreciate having them on today. And I hope you enjoy the episode. All right, gentlemen, we are continuing our deep dive into the importance of powerful family law firm websites. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about indexability, Nick, which I know is one of your favorite topics. Give us some background on what the heck this means and why it's important for family law firms.
All right. Well, when I think about an index, I'm thinking about libraries. Google is a big library, and we want to be in that library. We want to be easy to find in that library because that's where people are searching. So we want our book first to serve in that library when somebody searches for divorce. I think it's important to separate out the concept of crawling versus indexing because it's something we talk about a lot. Crawling is how Google, for example, will get around and actually understand a website and understand what's on the web. It's going to go out and it's going to basically spider around and just start collecting data. But that's not the index. So that's discoverability. The index itself, being put in that index, is the result of being highly discoverable and being clear and concise in information.
So if it's library indexability, is those note cards with the Dewey Decimal System on it?
That's exactly what it is.
Yes, I remember those as a kid. Very confusing.
You didn't know you were in SEO back then, did you?
Right. I was. It's amazing the correlation between the two, and how Google's been able to leverage that ideology across search. And so, Nick, if I want to have a great website and I want it to be indexed so people can find my book on divorce here in Milwaukee, what do I need to think about? Is it all just pages, or is it the structure of the website?
Well, it starts at the structure of the website. I mean, if I'm doing this from scratch, I want to have a very organized website that's built around really clear, understood categories of information. So I want my services really clearly laid out. I want to have a contact page in the expected place. I want all the URLs to be as short as possible and descriptive. So I want a page that says divorce lawyer, and on that page we would expect to find divorce information. So
I think we talk about websites a lot, right? And if I'm an attorney and I'm thinking about my website, I'm thinking about how pretty it is and my pictures on it and that the colors are right. But there's all these things on the back end of a website that allow Google to assign authority. Are there some tools? I know you've mentioned like the Robot.txt file and the importance of sitemaps. How are those things or tools like that working alongside websites to improve the indexability?
Well, I'm thinking about, like, from a crawling perspective, these are, like you mentioned, robots.txt and sitemap. These uh, these make you the gatekeeper to all the information on your website. So robots.txt is a file that full of directives that just says do or do not crawl these areas of my website. So you can use that to really shape the crawl so that Google's not wasting its time crawling information you don't want to index or put in the search results. It's it's a really powerful place to just control what you are showing to the world at large. Whereas the sitemap is another tool, but in this case, we're actively submitting this tool to Google Search Console or Bing Webmaster to say, these are the pages that you should put in your index. These are the pages that matter to this book. So they should have priority. Please pay attention to them. So this puts you kind of at the control console for how your website shows up.
I'm just going to continue with the library references. To me, that means you're now the librarian, helping the person find what they need.
You're the author and publisher of the book, and you're working with distributors to get it in the hands of the librarian.
Yeah, the other thing to think about here, like we've been referencing books and talking about indexability, and like Google's going to crawl your site to identify whether it's authoritative or not, to determine whether or not to put it in the index. What we find often with general practitioner sites is very incomplete books. Because essentially what you find on those websites are several different areas of law that, when you think about what book would have all the different areas of law, it's going to look more like an encyclopedia, less an encyclopedia of information, which means your site has to be freaking enormous to cover all of that, because every single, the family law section, the criminal defense section, the personal injury section, the probate and estate planning section, all of those are going to have massive troves of information that are required to make them rank. So, when we get those types of clients, like we coach them on the fact that you have a book that's going to be seen as incomplete and not authoritative because you're trying to be too much to the marketplace, and you actually don't have the resources to finish this book. Thus, Google's going to say, just like a librarian would say, this isn't a very important book. I'm probably not going to display it on an end cap, or I'm not going to display it in the, best resources section in the library, which would be the first page of Google where people are going to actually visit your site. It's going to be hidden down in search results because you have an incomplete book that's not well organized and it's missing information. So that book reference is really good because it helps you think about like what should all be there. That's why we typically advise, if you're a law firm, what's the service that you specialize in? Let's build a site on that. You can have secondary pages that are secondary, not super important to the overall structure of the site. That might reference the fact that you do some other services, but we shouldn't have all three be equal, because now what we've ended up doing is like we've created this perception of, from a Google perspective, this site should have lots of information on all of these areas, and it's also missing all of these other areas that are in consumer-facing law. This book looks incomplete, and that's what they're going to see. So it's a good concept to think about and try to navigate.
Yeah, and you got to create that clarity, right? Because sometimes Google's the most advanced, piece of machinery anyone's ever built, and other times it's like a 3-year-old where you got to walk it around and show it what's important and what's not. So speaking of creating that clarity, Nick, as law firms mature and their websites mature and they add pages and add attorneys and lose attorneys, there's lots of pages that are created. How can law firms create that clarity and indexability in their sites as their website matures, as it becomes more complex and they're adding more pages?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is don't be afraid to cut with purpose. So if you are seeing duplicate pages or near duplicate content, maybe you have the same bio across pages. Update the bios. Consolidate where you can. Like don't be afraid if your site is growing out of control. Put some rules in place so that it grows with intent and stays structurally relevant, and that each page has a point, a purpose, and a topic. And you're not diluting that. There are some technical tools that we can use to keep things, keep authority flowing, and keep the book up to date. So I guess this is keep the book up to date. 404s we want to avoid, so we're going to implement 301 redirects. We're going to use things like canonical tags, which is a very fancy way of saying this page, while similar to this other page, is the most important version of this. This is the canonical version of this page. We have lots of tools at our disposal.
Any tools that a law firm owner should think about, or should they just call their agency and say, "Hey, how's my indexability?"
I think that's what they should do first and foremost. I don't think they want to go to school to be an SEO.
Sounds like a lot of fun, based on this series we've been running. Cody, anything else that the law firm owners should consider when considering the strength and authority of their website?
I guess just from like a management perspective, managing your team or your agency, like I would look for them to give you updates or give you a slide deck on technical audits they're continuing to do, so that you're seeing, are we maintaining the integrity of our site, and is this actually happening? Because this is often the thing that gets missed the most. It's the boring SEO work. There's nothing fancy about it. A lot of life is about doing the blocking and tackling, and that's how you end up winning. And the process of doing a technical SEO audit is something that should be done quarterly. And if you're not getting that from your team, or they're not kind of telling you that they're doing it and reporting what they're finding and what they're doing as a result, there's stuff probably being missed. So, like from a management perspective, you should expect to see that, so that you have a better sense of if what you're paying for you're getting accomplished.
Love it, 100%. Gents, appreciate this opportunity to continue this series, and looking forward to staying on this path and helping law firm owners build very authoritative, indexable websites. Now that your site is visible on Google, how do you make sure it ranks? In our next episode, we will cover technical SEO, the behind-the-scene tactics that give your firm the edge in search results.